Now, the other company we talked about earlier reporting today, and we haven't talked about yet on the show, is RCL Foods. And they grew headline earnings from continuing operations, 964 million from a loss of 332 million in 2014. Miles Daly is the CEO of RCL Foods, and he joins us now on Skype. Good evening to you, Miles. We were talking a little bit earlier about another retail outlet, Mr. Price, which has had a sharp pullback after getting some of its calculations wrong on the fashion side. But you seem to have had a good turnaround.
Yes, evening, David. We're very pleased with the result. As you recall, last year we did a pro forma to give the market a better understanding of our performance because of all the corporate transactions. But even against our pro forma, our EBITDA is up 55% and our headline earnings per share up 155%. So we're very pleased with the progress that we've made.
When you look at the company now, I mean, obviously it's very different to the old Rainbow chickens that we know. I mean, maybe two aspects. First of all, maybe explain to viewers, because of all the changes you've made, what is actually in RCL now? And then secondly, how's the slowdown or the poor economic conditions affecting your company? Imports, general consumer expenditure, etc.
Yes, absolutely. The original Rainbow, we added Vector to that in 2005. And then we said that we had a strategy to build a big food business. And we acquired Food Corp and TSB. And in those two acquisitions, we acquired a number of well-loved brands. We now have 20 much-loved brands in our portfolio. We also said that we don't want to be a holding company running 4 operating companies. And so we started at the outset with a one-company philosophy. In January this year, we've now restructured and we have a consumer division, which is essentially the old Rainbow chicken brands and the bulk of the Food Corp consumer brands. And then we have the sugar and milling division, in which we have the sugar business and the Food Corp milling and baking division. We've combined the flour milling and baking operations, and then the third leg is Vector. So we're a really well diversified company now with a number of really great brands.
Miles, looking at Africa, most South African companies that are reporting good results these days it's because they've expanded into the continent of Africa. And what are your plans there? It's clearly part of, it's on your radar. What are you doing?
Yeah, we're excited about Africa, and I think everyone's excited about Africa. And if you travel into Africa, you'll bump into a lot of South African companies. What we've done, though, is that while we're excited about the long-term potential of Africa, we're also very mindful of the fact that we don't want to overpay for assets and that we're the new kids on the block. And so to be very presumptuous of us just to arrive and assume our loved brands are going to be loved in those countries or that we have the local knowledge. So what we've done to date is look at the obvious sort of areas. There's the West African cluster, the East African cluster, and the Southern African. And we've tried to identify partners with which we can work. And so we've done some really nice smaller ventures, so one in Zambia with the Zambeef guys on chicken. We've recently invested another $4 million there in a breeding and hatchery operation. We've done a joint venture in Botswana with CNBC Foods, with Vector Logistics. And post-year end, we announced a joint venture with Udani in Uganda. So that's very much the approach that we're taking. But we've got a really great portfolio of core products and technologies. So if you look at our sugar business, you look at our chicken business, you look at our milling business, our animal feed businesses, those are very good entry points into a place like Africa as opposed to arriving maybe with mayonnaise. So we're very excited about building on a more incremental basis than necessarily going for a big bang. Having said that, if we have looked at some big acquisitions, unfortunately, when we've got to the due diligence phase, we've been forced to walk away.
Well, thanks to Miles Daly, interesting company and interesting expansion plans. He's the CEO of RCL Foods.